The US Federal Reserve has revealed what everyone's been sensing. The economic recovery is happening far slower than anticipated. The housing market remains flat, foreclosures are still rising, unemployment's high and the growth outlook is poor. The recession may be over, but it's no wonder it's hard to convince Americans things are looking up. North America correspondent Lisa Miller reports.
These are the prosperous streets of downtown DC, an area young professionals call home. But even here, behind these ornate doorways, lies the evidence of America's downturn.
And then here's what's left of the bedroom. So
that's it.
It's an air mattress. It works.
A self-employed industrial designer who once earned 6 figures, Dwayne is now weeks away from losing his home.
Just sick. I mean, I don't know. It's just a bad place. And the only thing I can look at is just the only way to go from here is up. Because I mean, like I said, worst case, I'm going to lose it, and I'll just have to start over, and I'll deal with that when that comes.
This is the legacy of the crisis that swept across the country. 1 in 4 homeowners still owes more on their mortgage than their properties are worth. Foreclosures reached a new peak in June, and home values aren't expected to reach rock bottom until late this year.
Every foreclosure that happens has a reverberation. It lowers surrounding property values. So, of course, that causes unemployment and erodes the tax base. So you have less money for essential services like schools and hospitals. And then, of course, that means that more people fall into foreclosure, and it begets more joblessness. So it's almost a reverse bubble. And you needed to pierce that. We need to pierce that.
On Capitol Hill, before the Senate Budget Committee, top economists delivered the bad news.
So we're on track, if we are pessimistic about the second half of this year, to experience essentially a lost half-decade of growth in the United States.
I'm in the camp that is extremely concerned about growth over the next year, and that the damage done from the bursting of both the housing bubble and the near collapse of the international financial system cannot be cured in a relatively short period of time.
That damage is being seen across the country. The Pentagon's announced massive cuts, citing harsh economic realities. And state and local governments are waiting for an emergency aid package from Congress to prevent more sackings.
With so many Americans unemployed or struggling to get by, states have been forced to balance their budgets with fewer tax dollars, which means that they've got to cut critical services.
But even those more confident about the economy are finding it tough. Radar Morsley's technology consulting company, Fed Solutions, has been averaging growth of 400% for the past 3 years.
Bringing on board more clients, which we do a very good job at, requires more staff to support, and also requires more overhead. And to do that, we need to have a little bit more operational money.
While banks are under pressure to open up credit, for this entrepreneur, money is hard to come by.
It's definitely not the case for us, I can tell you that. We've recently interviewed with about 32 different banks, and I would say 31 of them were not lending.
A senior economist, Joe Gagnon, spent 25 years at the US Federal Reserve and US Treasury, including time with the Reserve Bank of Australia.
I think what we're seeing is a subpar recovery. I think a true double dip is extremely unlikely. Rarely happens unless there's really drastic policy actions to make it happen. But we are not growing fast enough to get the unemployment rate down, that's clear.
But jobs aren't being created because the economy's not growing, and the housing market is still weak because unemployment is still high. The problem for this administration is how do you break that cycle? The stimulus package is credited with having helped initially, although not enough to boost the growth rate. And most of the experts believe that without changes to monetary and fiscal policy, America's economy will continue to stall. For those at the bottom, that kind of action may not come fast enough. Lisa Miller, Late Line.